Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our first Learn Over Lunch webinar of the spring semester. We're going to get started in probably just another minute or two. Give a couple more attendees a few more minutes to get set up. If you could just quickly type into your chat field and let us know if you can hear us clearly. There's a tiny bit of background noise from outside, so hopefully that won't be picked up on the audio today. Just let us know if you can hear us okay.
Don't we have to keep talking to find out if they can hear us?
Thank you, everybody. I'm glad to hear and learn that you're able to hear the audio today. We'll give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Thank you for being prompt and joining us for our webinar. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Once again, welcome. My name is Shannon Gallo. I'm the Manager of Career Services here at the CUNY School of Professional Studies. I'm thrilled to have all of you joining us for our first Learn Over Lunch webinar of the spring 2016 semester. We have a really exciting and interesting program lined up to present to you today. Before we get into the meat of today's webinar, I just wanted to let all of you know that we hope you'll be sending in questions for our panelists. Once they've presented the material, they will go through questions at the end. In order to ask questions or send us comments or anything, if you're using a PC, you see the image on the left shows you where to send in those questions. If you're using a Mac, refer to the image on the right. If you do have technical difficulties, what you can do is call the GoToWebinar organization at 1-800-263-6317, then press 1 for GoToWebinar and 2 for tech support. Our fabulous presenters today include my team member, Kelsey Richardson. She is a career advisor here at the School of Professional Studies. Those of you who have joined us on webinars before may have heard from Kelsey, so you know you're in for a real treat. Joining Kelsey and speaking today is also Christopher Leydon. He is our Student Services Coordinator, and he gets an extra star for today because it is his birthday, and he has still committed to present on our webinar. So happy birthday, Christopher.
Thank you.
Without any other further ado, just a quick reminder to please send in your questions at any time and we will address them. Quick shout out to Anthony Sweeney from our Student Services team who's helping us manage questions. So hopefully we'll get some good ones in today. And with that, I will turn the floor over to Kelsey Richardson.
Thank you, Shannon. So welcome again, everyone. We're really pleased that you're joining us today. We are going to be talking about different ways to show me the money. Hopefully some of you have seen the Jerry Maguire movie and get that reference. But applying for scholarships, fellowships, and grants is really, really important in terms of finding other ways to fund your education. And so we want to go through a number of ways that you can do research and find out more of how to do this. And, you know, you might be surprised at the amount of resources and support that are available to you. So let's just begin really by touching on what is a scholarship, a fellowship, and a grant, right? So scholarships provide money that does not have to be repaid and usually is awarded on the basis of academic merit or a combination of academic merit and financial need. Throughout CUNY, there are more than 1,000 scholarships, awards, and special program opportunities offered. and we'll be giving you information about where to find CUNY-wide opportunities and SPS-specific opportunities like the ACE scholarship, for instance, a little later in the webinar. And of course, there are also many government-based opportunities, opportunities from private organizations, also that provide assistance to college students. So it's a really wide breadth of resources that are available to you. Now, a fellowship. What is a fellowship? Fellowships are regional, national, or international programs that supply students with opportunities for undergraduate or graduate study and/or professional development. Fellowships are sponsored usually by a specific association, organization, or university. So an example of a fellowship that we actually in Career Services distribute application information about each year is the PMF program. And the PMF program is the Presidential Management Fellows Program, which is a federal government fellowship program for advanced degree candidates. And this program is designed as a leadership development program for government positions. It's a very prestigious program. It's an excellent program. It's really great training if you're interested in a field, in working for the government. So now grants. What is a grant, right? Well, there are many different kinds of grants, but if we take, for instance, federal grants, the U.S. Department of Education, for example, offers many different kinds of federal grants to students attending four-year colleges or universities, community colleges, and career schools. Almost all of their grants are awarded to students with financial need. So for federal grants, you have to start off the process by submitting a free application for federal student aid form, more commonly known as the FAFSA form. And so we're going to just take a quick glance at the FAFSA form. Hopefully, many of you have already filled this form out, in your process of when you applied for SPS, or if you're at another CUNY school, at your CUNY school. But if you have not, the FAFSA form is often a key part of the application process. So I suggest you definitely familiarize yourself with it if you're not already, because most likely you're going to need to fill it out. And then I also want to just touch on differences between scholarships and fellowships, really kind of versus grants. Scholarships and fellowships are usually awarded focusing primarily on academic merit, right? But at least the federal and state grants focus much more on financial need. But, obviously a lot of students that we work with have financial need and, have an impressive academic record as well. And so there are lots of opportunities, again, remember, that are available to you. So just make sure that when you're looking for scholarships, fellowships, and grants, that you carefully review the specific criteria and that you meet the eligibility requirements for each application that you decide to submit. Now I just want to touch on opportunities and the different kinds of opportunities, because also, like when you're doing your research, I want you to keep in mind that there are several different ways to look at what's available to you. You can look at opportunities by type. So like, for instance, the study abroad Gilman scholarships, or the Fulbright scholarship, the Truman scholarships, for instance, base the awarding of that scholarship on, academic merit, of course, but also on leadership ability that's demonstrated, and also a commitment to public service. So, you can do your search that way, and then you can also keep in mind that there are opportunities by various demographics. So for veterans, for women, minorities, non-traditional students, students with disabilities, first-generation college students, various ethnic groups. There are many different types, so make sure, again, that you explore thoroughly. And then you can also look at opportunities by your specific academic discipline or your specific research area. So, again, just keep in mind the wealth of information and resources that you'll have available to you, because sometimes what happens is these applications can be kind of extensive and very involved, and sometimes you might miss out on an opportunity if you're not aware of how many there are to do, and to give yourself enough time to make sure that you can have the opportunity to research and go through thoroughly for opportunities maybe you didn't think you qualified for, but you'll find out that you did. So now I'd like to turn it over to Christopher, and he's going to be talking about the planning process.
That's all you got, Kelsey?
That's all I got so far.
Should we remind listeners there are questions that you may have, which we'll address at the end. So do you want to flash back to how do we do that, Shannon? Or no? Everybody knows how to do questions. Okay, very good. Oh, and I see a few have already come in. So keep the questions coming, because we should have lots of time at the end, because I plan not to be too long-winded. So the planning process for basically any of these opportunities, I'm going to say scholarships, but you can understand by that scholarships, fellowships, and grants as applicable. But the planning process should be medium to long. Try to give yourself a year from the time you start to when the check arrives. Many opportunities require submission of applications in the fall of the academic year before funding. So for instance, a scholarship to support tuition next year, academic year 2016 to 17, which starts in the fall of 2016, chances are you've missed that one. You probably would have had to apply in October, November, maybe December of last year. One notable exception to this is our homegrown crop of SPS scholarships, for which the deadline this year is
February 29th, which is
Monday.
a Monday.
Yep, Monday, February 29th, and happy leap year. So we're kind of special and unique in that way. All right, maybe not unique, but we're special in that way. So you still have time for those if you're a continuing student at SPS. The second point here in the planning process, which I think Kelsey already alluded to, is research, research, research. Don't assume you're not eligible or qualified for scholarships. The key is really matching your needs to the available opportunities. There are so very many opportunities out there that chances are at least some of them are a match for you. Use your networks, including SPS faculty and staff, by which I mean student services personnel, such as myself, to help you identify and pursue scholarship opportunities. So in addition to what you know of and can find out yourself, we might be able to help. And if you're in a particular academic discipline, chances are faculty in those places know about field-specific opportunities. Also, please do obtain assistance. You are not alone. At the minimum, you'll be asking for recommendations and enlisting at least one reader for your applicant essay, personal statement, or other parts of the application. It is, of course, better to have 2 or 3 readers, but you must always have at least one. The best help will come from the people who have served on committees that award scholarships or have themselves been recipients. And who serves on the committees to award scholarships? Pretty much faculty and staff, depending on what it is. So if you can get to those kinds of people, they know what to look for in applications, they'll help you with your essays, and they'll be happy to do it, we think. Also, here at SPS, you might enlist one of the CUNY Writing Fellows for technical help with your writing, in addition to asking for feedback from faculty and support from student services. So the Writing Fellows, of course, are also available for help with your classwork, but this is a valid use of their services as well. Keep in mind when it's time to apply for these opportunities, particularly recommendation letters, it is part of faculty members' jobs to write recommendation letters. Most of them are very willing to do so. and they know that it reflects well on them if their students succeed. A letter from a full-time tenured professor may be more impressive to some reviewers, but in many cases, it's the instructor who knows you and your work best who will make the best recommender for you, even if he or she is an adjunct, as much of our staff is at SPS. This is also a good reason to get to know your instructors and make sure that they get to know you. In addition, you should share your personal statement, or at least a draft of it, with the letter writers, along with relevant information about the opportunity and your goals and plans. This will help your recommenders write an appropriate letter for you for the opportunity you're applying for. Instead of just saying, so-and-so wrote a pretty good paper and got an A, they'll be able to say, we spoke about goals and plans, I think this is an excellent opportunity and a good match, etc. A much stronger letter. Finally, don't take it personally if the process is slower than you like. Faculty members, like everybody else, are busy and may require gentle reminder emails. The same goes for student services. We are in the business of student success, and we like nothing better than to see our students receive proper recognition. So remind us if you need to. Okay, let me say this again, going back a slide. This takes time. These steps, the preparation, the planning process, researching to identify opportunities, writing your personal statement, securing recommendations, rewriting and completing applications, submitting applications, awaiting results, and finally receiving funding. These steps take some time. You should probably plan on a year-long process. Ask for help. To repeat an important point I just made, but bears repeating, don't ever submit any sort of application without having someone else read it over. Kelsey, do you mention this in career services?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And also remember, too, that if your resume is required as part of the application process, make sure that you contact career services so that we can help you to make your resume be as strong as it can be.
Thanks for reminding us of that. Yeah, so just like you don't write and send a job letter without having somebody look it over, you're not applying for a scholarship without having somebody else take a look at your essay. Okay. Do ask for help and be willing to reciprocate when the time comes, whether that's faculty, staff, or friends. They'll eventually hit you up for favors too, so be prepared. Okay, and finally, and this is also a key point in the asking for help, it's a win-win-win. Any scholarship you win, like any other honor you're chosen for, becomes a feather in your proverbial cap. You can add it to your resume or CV as a way of indicating your initiative and your excellence. It'll also give you confidence as you approach new opportunities, and people will also remember you when new opportunities come up. So one thing can lead to another. And if at first you don't succeed, keep trying. Just like the job search, you'll get better at the process and learn important lessons along the way. It is not all about the money, but of course the money can't hurt. And if and when you do win it. And the win-win extends to the people who help you. So it makes your faculty look good, it makes the school look good, everybody's happy. So let's move on to, yes, exactly, the resources. Luckily, we have some great centralized web resources here at the university. And as I said a few minutes ago, you should plan on investing some time in research. Faculty and staff members or your fellow students may have suggestions about the opportunities you should look into, but you can exercise your research skills by digging in here to find an opportunity to match your needs, interests, and strengths. So the place to start is the CUNY.edu website in their scholarship pages, which you will find under financial aid in the hierarchy of websites, web pages rather. This is a general page that gathers a whole lot of resources, some of them campus specific, others in the left nav specific to city, state, federal funding. There's a whole section on prestigious scholarships, which includes many that you will have heard of and some that you will have not. Yeah, let's look at that. For instance, Fulbrights and the Rhodes Scholarships, Goldwater Scholarships, Truman's, Marshall Scholarships, some very famous names there. And at the bottom, one you may not have heard of, the Women's Forum of New York Education Fund Awards, which we're happy to say one of our students won last year, Zena Adams, from the School of Professional Studies. So again, you could be next, and we'd love to have you win a prestigious scholarship, or really any scholarship. So there's also a section of the CUNY scholarship website that gives you some search resources. These direct you to the scholarship search through 4 different outside compilers. So there's some meta compiling going on here. You're going to spend some time sorting through this. There'll be a lot here that doesn't apply to you probably, but if you're patient and you give yourself some time, I think it's likely you'll find a match. We could also take a look at the study abroad specific page. There's a whole section in the CUNY Study Abroad website devoted to funding, because not everybody can cough up the money to do that. Again, this takes some advanced planning. There are lots of good opportunities. And you could follow up with me. Okay, so CUNY-wide. Now let's check out the page, which also has some fantastic resources tailored to our students, both their needs and their particular abilities. And that's divided into basically 2 sets. One is the annual scholarships. Yeah, keep those questions coming. Of which you may qualify for 1 or more. They are specific to some of them, undergraduates, graduate students, different areas of study, etc. However, those annual scholarships are all sharing the same application form. Easy for you. We figure out which ones you're qualified for. You put it on the form and submit it. And again, as far as scholarship forms go, this is a nice short application. Is there anything else we can say to encourage people to apply for the SBS scholarships? The deadline, in case you didn't hear, is Monday, February 29th, so there's still time for that. In addition to the annual scholarships, there are also some special awards and programs that are linked either to a degree program or, as Kelsey will briefly explain, the ACE Scholarship Program.
Yes, so the ACE Scholarship Program is one of our newer scholarship programs that started last year. And the ACE scholarships are to support high-achieving undergraduate CUNY SPS students. And the ACE awards underwrite 100% of tuition and follow recipients through degree completion. And, 100% of tuition, that's really an amazing scholarship opportunity. And, there is, you have to maintain a minimum GPA, cumulative GPA of 3.0, and you have to be enrolled for a minimum of 6 credits and demonstrate financial need. But one of the great things about this program, too, is that if you are chosen as an ACE scholar, you have the opportunity to mentor newly admitted undergraduate students, and you're able to help them through their process of navigating, SPS, and you're able to give back, the kind of help that you may have received or may have wished you received, and it's really a great opportunity to be able to fine-tune your mentoring skills and, give to students who are definitely in need of guidance from fellow students. It has a different impact when it's a fellow student being able to guide you through these various complicated processes that we have. So remember, the deadline for the application is February 29th for all of the SPS scholarships. And, when it comes to deadlines, with scholarships, fellowships, and grants, deadlines are really strict. So you have to make sure that you adhere to deadlines because you don't want to miss out on an opportunity.
Was that meant for me?
No.
Okay, that's for everyone. Good point. Thank you for that, Kelsey.
Absolutely.
So there are only two more things we didn't say that we already said, which is make sure you get some help with reviewing applicant statements and everything else in the process, but particularly the written part of your application. And also, you still have time to apply for SPS scholarships for next year. If there are questions, we've got a few. I think we've got some time, so you can keep the questions coming in. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Kelsey and Christopher. Okay, so with that, we will turn to some questions. I'm going to do my best to navigate through these and try and ask either Kelsey or Christopher to answer them depending on the subject matter. Okay, we've got a couple of similar questions, couple of different things. Okay, so hopefully we can address some of these. Now, if there are questions that come in that we don't have the exact answers to, we will be able to find them. And if you don't have your question answered today for one reason or another, please reach out to us and let us know so we can find the answers for you. This is the first time that we've offered a program based on scholarships, fellowships, and grants. So there may be some questions that we did not anticipate or something we did not cover today. So hopefully we will be able to answer everything that's come in. Okay, so here's a couple of similar questions. I'll go to Kelsey for this one. Can I use the same letter of recommendation for both scholarships and admission to graduate school?
That's a very good question, and you want to make sure that you are using very specific letters for each application that you submit. So you do not want to use the same letter. You can use the same recommenders who know you well and will speak highly of you, but the letter needs to be tailored to the specific requirements that the scholarship or fellowship has, and it needs to highlight your background in relation to that, and that's often different than your admission to graduate school. So just make sure that you, as Christopher mentioned, provide your a copy of your personal statement and provide as much information as possible to your recommenders, so they can make that letter as specific as possible and make it strong to support your application well.
Great.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
I think for the recommenders to have to say, could you write a fresh letter for this opportunity 2 or 3 times? It's not asking a lot because it's not starting from scratch. Actually, probably just be making some tweaks, changing some wording. So again, don't feel like you're asking the world of these faculty members.
Something I will add, and I think both Christopher and Kelsey talked about this, you want to keep time on your side. So with anything like this, particularly when you're requesting recommendations from faculty members, their time is so precious. So please give them as much time as possible and make sure that, you explain whatever the process will be to them so that they know if they'll be submitting something on their own, if it's going to go through a specific online system or whatever the case may be. Just keep in mind that as much notice as you can give to your recommenders probably the better quality and more timely the recommendations will be as they come in. This is sort of a similar question. Maybe Christopher can address this. What happens if my recommender doesn't send my letter?
That could be a problem. Usually the deadline for receiving letters of recommendation is either the same or a little bit after the applicant's part. So there may be some time to do damage control and make sure that gets in the pipeline. You really have to follow up with a faculty member. In some of these more automated applications, you'll get a notice, or you'll have a way of knowing when your recommender's letter has been uploaded or has arrived. In other cases, you may get a phone call from somebody saying, hey, we got your application in one of the letters, but there's supposed to be 2 or 3. And if that happens, that means they're hoping you can get it in, and then you try to make sure that happens. Again, it could be a technical glitch. An email didn't connect. Something that was supposed to be uploaded didn't get uploaded. It's hard to answer that question generally, but I guess the main point is maybe it's not a fatal problem, and sometimes there's still time to remedy it and get your application processed. So yeah, it depends, I guess, sadly, is the answer there. So don't give up hope. If there's some way to fix it, you can always make some phone calls.
Thank you, Christopher. Here are a couple questions, I think sort of similar subject matter, and I don't know the answer to them myself, so hopefully one of you will. If not, we can certainly connect you with the right person to give you the answers. The question here is, if you receive the ACE scholarship, are you still eligible for Pell and TAP to get help with your books and other expenses?
I believe that you are, but I'm not positive about that. So okay. We can definitely find that out.
We can find out the information for you. My assumption is that you are still eligible for that as well. Christopher's shaking his head, right. Yes.
I think so.
So we're pretty certain that you are. Another question here, are scholarships, fellowships, and other grants taxable, or are they considered taxable income?
So a scholarship that pays tuition and fees, is that income? It's best not to speculate if you don't know, particularly when federal government's involved. We'll have to research that.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Christopher. And, you know, another resource that we didn't really address today that is a fine one for these things is the financial aid office. You know, here at SPS, they, you know, would probably be the best place to go to ask these kinds of questions to find out about eligibility and taxable and different things like that. So keep in mind that the financial aid office at SPS is another really good resource in terms of support or to just answer some of these kinds of questions. Okay, here's a question, and I'll let Kelsey handle this one. Do online students receive the same support applying for scholarships as in-person students?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the support that you receive, I mean, it just in terms of like support of helping you with your applications, you know, you would just reach out to the support services and resources that we've touched on, and they would be available to you, absolutely. And then just in terms of in general, you know, you just have to make sure that you pay attention to what the requirements and the criteria are for each of the funding opportunities you're applying for. And you know, online, in person, that it's really, they differentiate usually, you know, by like number of credits or whether you're an undergraduate student or graduate student, that type of thing, not whether you're an in-person student or an online student.
And we're happy to help either way.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Okay, this probably would be a simple yes or no answer. But Christopher, I'll go ahead and ask you, are grants only awarded to undergraduates?
No. I can't give a yes or no answer. Yeah, grants are no. In fact, lots of faculty, particularly in the sciences, but not only in the sciences, receive grants to keep their research up long into their careers after undergraduate and graduate work is behind them. You may find yourself, receiving, salary through a grant. Some of the programs in the university are grant funded. You could be a lab assistant funded by a grant, or you could be working as a college assistant at a desk, and it could be I shouldn't say college assistant, that's the wrong term. But anyway, grants are all over the place, and not all of them are linked to educational institutions, as I'm sure you probably know.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and turn this one over to Kelsey, as she did refer to one of these fellowships earlier today. For federal fellowships specifically, do you need to be in a certain academic major?
Well, for federal fellowships, it's going to specify actually for each one what what the criteria is. So a lot of them are open to most majors, if not all, but there are some that are specific. So it's more that when you're doing your research, you just need to read through to see what is it stating. Is it saying that this particular program is for specific majors, or is it saying open to all majors? I mean, the federal fellowships try to be open, to different areas of study, because they know that, obviously students can study many different areas and have a great deal of knowledge to offer when it comes to participating in the fellowships and, and increasing their professional development. So again, that's a case-by-case basis, but just make sure you read carefully so that if it is specific to majors, that you don't waste your time trying to apply for something that your major is not eligible for.
So you want a little more on that one?
Yeah.
Since we have time. Sometimes the people who are putting up the money are interested in particular fields and majors. Other times they have other goals. So I'm thinking of the Fulbright Hays program that I used to work on. The goal of that is federally funded to get U.S. students studying in countries other than Western Europe and North America. So particularly they like to fund students who are learning from beginner to advanced certain crucial languages, and they decide which languages they want every year. And then they fund students to work for 18 months in the country that they're doing research in. The goal is, cultural and strategic, and many times it's anthropologists who win things like that. But it's also musicologists, it's also political scientists, and historians. The government doesn't care as much which discipline you're in for that kind of thing. They're really just interested in building the skills in U.S. students who will become U.S. faculty to teach in those areas and teach those languages.
Great. Thank you, Christopher.
Anytime.
We got two questions sort of pertaining to FAFSA, and I thought I would take a moment and show everyone where you can get to the financial aid page through the SPS website. So if you go to the SPS page, and then under admissions, you'll see in the drop down is where you can get to the financial aid page. And this is where you can find all kinds of information related to the financial aid, some information about questions that might come up, what the different resources are, FAQs, things like that. So for a lot of these questions, I would certainly direct you to go to this page and also to reach out directly to the folks in financial aid, because they definitely have the answers, and they're really good about making sure that they're up on all the latest regulations and so forth. The two questions that came through relating to FAFSA, the first one is the FAFSA application necessary before applying for scholarships?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so even if you're not getting financial aid, which is essentially a technical term for loans, you're going to fill out a FAFSA to be eligible for scholarships. So don't be confused about that. Just it's an application. It doesn't mean you're getting loans necessarily.
Okay. Thank you. Along the same lines, if, and I think you may have sort of answered that, if you don't qualify for financial aid through FAFSA, what are some of the best resources to look for scholarships, grants, and fellowships that you could apply for without, meeting that financial aid need?
I think a lot of the opportunities we've spoken of today may have different qualifications than federal financial aid. So
yeah, if you go to the CUNY scholarships page, that's probably a good place to start, because you can do searches there, and you can just make sure you're searching in finding scholarships that are not need-based and that are based on other criteria.
And even the SPS scholarships, we require a FAFSA, but I'm not sure. Are we looking at financial need in every case?
Not in every case.
Not in every case. Okay.
Yeah, probably depends again on the specific, goals of the funding sources and what those particular programs support. We've gotten a couple of sort of unique questions and specific to scholarships. Here's a more broad question. How competitive are most scholarships and fellowships?
Well, yeah, it definitely varies widely. Any scholarships that's listed under the prestigious scholarships category is obviously going to be, much more competitive than some of the others. But it really does vary. It's usually best to, research, look to see which ones you're eligible for, and, apply for some of the prestigious ones. You don't want to be intimidated and think, well, that's one of the prestigious ones. I've always heard about that one. I don't know if I'd be able to get that one, because you may be surprised. And, it's better to go for it and give it a shot, and then just make sure you're also applying for other opportunities as well.
Yeah, so by competitive, we think slim chances perhaps, but in a lot of cases, some of these opportunities are really targeted. Gilman came up earlier. Gilman Funds study abroad opportunities, but their mission is really specific to getting underrepresented groups of students out from the U.S. to study abroad. So they're looking to find qualified students who belong to minority groups. They're looking to fund students with disabilities. They're looking to get first-generation college students out on study abroad, even if their parents didn't go to college, etc. So don't think because it's prestigious and competitive that you don't have something in your personal demographics that makes you an excellent candidate, because probably you do.
I agree. A question about sort of being considered. If my GPA is lower than the scholarship says is required, but I meet the other criteria, do you recommend I still apply?
In that case, no, actually, because when it comes to requirements, when it states that there's a certain GPA requirement, they're pretty strict about those. They set their criteria very specifically, so it's best not to waste your time if your GPA is lower than what they're requiring. But then it's just your opportunity to look for other scholarships or fellowships where your GPA does meet the criteria, because that criteria varies widely. Some, like a lot of the most prestigious scholarships have higher GPA requirements, but there are many that have, more reasonable GPA requirements. So definitely don't waste your time if it doesn't meet that exact one, but just look for other opportunities and apply for those instead.
I would also add to that particularly with certain fellowships, if the fellowship's sort of mission and goal is to provide awards to other individuals that might not otherwise have these opportunities, it may be clearly stated on their site and within their application information that they have a range for a GPA, or that they have a flexible sort of GPA requirement, or they have a preference for GPA, but if you have other criteria that are particularly impressive, that you would still be considered. So again, I would recommend, as Kelsey and Christopher have both said, really do your research and find specifically which ones would be most beneficial for you to apply for, and maybe there are some that wouldn't necessarily look at the people who have the highest GPAs from the beginning. Another question, and this one is sort of specific about SPS, and my guess is that there are email addresses listed with different scholarships if you have questions, but this individual has already submitted an application for an SPS scholarship, terrific, with a reference, but they are not able to write the letter. Should I ask someone else?
Yes. Yeah, ask someone else, and if you're coming up against the deadline, you might try to communicate with the scholarships office here, but sometimes a recommender is just not available or even unwilling. You may want to use your soft skills in this case, because if somebody's giving you a hard time and grumbles about writing the letter, maybe that person won't write quite the recommendation you're looking for, and if there's another recommender you could find who's more receptive, choose that second person. But it sounds like you have time to make sure a letter gets in. So yes, ask someone else.
Great. We've got a final question. If there's anything else that sort of our remaining attendees would like to ask, you have a little bit of time to send them in. This question that we have here, which I think is sort of a good way to wrap up our presentation: how do I get help with writing essays for fellowships I'd like to apply for?
We don't do that, do we? Just kidding. Yeah, so this is something student services can help with, in this case me. We can certainly have a conversation. We can look at the application together. If you've prepared something, I can read it over, give you some pointers. I also highly recommend the CUNY Writing Fellows, who are good at several different forms of writing, and an application essay is just another kind of writing assignment, really. It's not that much different from an academic writing assignment. There's some personal biography in it. There's some persuasive aspects to it. You're really trying to sell yourself as a good applicant. But, like anything else, you don't want to repeat too much. You want to write clearly and have topic sentences in your paragraphs and so on. So, yeah, come to the Writing Fellows, come to me, and I'm going to say go back to the faculty you work with. If there's somebody who recommended the opportunity to you, that person will be able to help. If it's specific to a discipline, a field, an academic area, it's good to have somebody on the inside kind of coaching you through that. So so that would be my advice. Our faculty, our staff here in student services, career services, if there's a CV, and the writing fellows.
Great, thank you. We got a couple more questions that have come in. Okay, I'll look to Kelsey for this one. Are there scholarships available for part-time students, or do you always have to be full-time?
There are definitely scholarships available for part-time students as well. And the ACE scholarship, for instance, is one that is definitely available for part-time students, because you have to have a minimum of 6 credits. If you're completing your degree, you have 6 credits left. Obviously you're going part-time and you are very eligible. So definitely, again, this is a matter of just reading what the criteria is. I would say overall there are more opportunities available for full-time students, because traditionally, that's the way a lot of scholarships or fellowships were set up. But I'd say more and more part-time students find more opportunities, that are available as well. So definitely do that research and take a look.
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. Can scholarship money only be used for tuition costs?
No, and that depends, right?
Yeah, that depends.
Usually scholarship money goes toward school-related expenses, tuition being the main one, but also fees, books, possibly housing, and supporting you in other ways. Again, it depends on the particulars of the opportunity in question, and that'll all be specified in the application or the accompanying information.
Great. Well, I think that pretty much wraps things up with today's webinar. I'd like to take a moment and thank Kelsey and Christopher for participating. We did get several students chiming in and wishing you a happy birthday. So
thank you.
Hopefully the rest of your day goes well. We thank all of you for joining us today. We hope it was a worthwhile webinar for you to join. We will be sending out a survey, so hopefully you'll give us some constructive feedback on what you thought about our presentation today. And I hope the rest of you, I wish you the best of luck in this new spring semester, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.